Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Allahumma arhamna ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbi zidna ilma. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Safa.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So the last session, was it beneficial?
Yes.
Okay. Did you one or two, maybe one take-home message from the whole page is?
Do not take Allah's verses as mockery, and during the divorce, do not take back your wife just to hurt her or harm her.
Correct. Do not take Allah's verses as a mockery. Don't misuse it. And again, don't treat your woman violently in the sense to harm or abuse her. Don't abuse your woman. So that's very important. So don't use the divorce and these laws and all that to torture your woman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly says, treat them bil ma'ruf, with the on a reasonable basis and honorably. Okay, that's a take home from that the page. Moving on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse number 234 of Surah Al-Baqara, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, وَالَّذِينَ يُتَوَفَّوْنَ مِنْكُمْ. As of those among you died and leaves their wives behind you, they shall wait for 4 months and 10 days. Now, those time were very, very common. You know, people used to fight and used to have wars and all that. And men used to die, of course. And the women will get widowed. So what's the ruling on that? So they need to wait for 3 months and 10 days. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, 4 months and 10 days. So it's 130 days. Again, coming back to the physiology of it. If they had an intimacy before he went to the war and died, and if she became pregnant out of that, and it will take that many months to figure out, and in that case she has to wait for until her pregnancy is finished and she has given birth to the newborn before she gets married and all that. So Allah says wait for that period of time, 4 months and 10 days. If 4 months and 10 days is done, then there is no sin upon them if they want to get married and if they marry off, okay, in an honorable manner. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Allahu wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. Allah is very well aware of what you do. Okay, that's one ruling on widowed women and their remarriage. Is that clear? Number one. Going into the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي مَا أَرَّضْتُمْ بِهِ مِنْ خِطْبَةِ النِّسَاءِ. And there is no sin on you if you make a hint. Okay, now what happens is, two people married, the husband went on war, and it need not be war, it could be natural death as well actually, and husband died, and this woman is waiting for 4 months and 10 days. The situation is, you live in a community. When this woman was growing up, or was she in the community before marrying this husband, somebody else would have had an interest on her to marry, but she ended up marrying the other man. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now addressing this particular person who had an interest on her, saying that while she is waiting for that 130 days, you can hint her what you are concealing in yourself in a very Allah says there is no sin on you if you make a hint or to her, saying that you can't say that I want to marry her while she was doing it. You can say in a vague terms, I wish I had a wife like you, I wish I could marry a person like you, and all that, that's fine. But don't make a contract in secret saying that, okay, as soon as this 130 days is over, I will marry you. Allah says don't do that, because there is a possibility that she will be pregnant and it will take time and all that kind of stuff. Allah says don't make a contract, but you can hint your interest indirectly, or you can conceal it yourself. Allah knows that you will remember them, but do not make a promise of contract with them in secret, except that you speak in an honorable saying according to the Islamic law. Example, you can say to her, if one finds a wife like you, you would be happy. Something like that. You are giving an hint, you understand? And do not consummate the marriage until the term prescribed is fulfilled. What is that term? If a person dies, how long she should wait?
4 months and
4
10
months and
days.
10 days. Yeah, that's the one. And know that Allah knows what is in your mind, so fear Him. And know that Allah is of forgiving and most forbearing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ. You better know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is in your heart, what you are concealing in your heart. So you further, so you fear Him, and وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. This is a very trick in the sensitive situation, means this gentleman is very much attracted to her, you want to marry her and all that, and he is asked to wait, and during that time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, be careful not to cross overstep, that's a word. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know that Allah is Ghafoor and Alim. Allah is forgiving and most forbearing. Because that is a situation where people sleep and all that kind of stuff. Allah said, look, you try to obey my instruction. So in the next verse is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in 236 Surah Al-Baqara, Allah says, there is no sin on you if you divorce a woman while you yet have not touched her. It means you didn't have any sexual intimacy, and you haven't given her any mahr. You haven't appointed unto them any mahr. Do you know what is mahr? It's a bridal money.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to marry a woman, the man should give the mahr to her, which she should accept happily. So that is the only condition for nikah. It's not the other way around, which we see back home and everywhere. Dowry system, where the girl's father has to spend all his life savings to marry off that his children, his daughters, which is not Islamic. It's not for the, it's a culture. So we need to distinguish between the Islam and the culture. So dowry and all that is something we may have got it from other communities in which Muslim lived or whatever it is. Allah's instruction is, when you marry a woman, you need to honor her by giving a mahr. So that is the only thing which is very, very important. So this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if a marriage, so you two people agree to marry, but you haven't consummated the marriage, plus you haven't decided on the mahr as well. In that case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, there is no sin upon you to, if you divorce a woman, you can divorce around that time. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, but give them a lot of gifts. Because what happens is, when you propose to a woman, they start, dreaming about their life and, thinking about and all, living together and all that. After a couple of months or weeks, you are telling her that, okay, I'm not marrying you again. It's an emotional trauma. It's quite sensitive topic. Allah says, make them happy. Give them gifts. And give them gifts like according to your means. If you are a millionaire, don't give her $100 and do that. You give according to your capacity. If you are a poor man, yes, you can give whatever you can afford. So Allah is making sure that the emotional part of it is taken care of as well, while these things can happen in the community, in the society, where two people can agree on a marriage. After some few days, they may feel like, this is not going to work out, and they can separate without even having a proper nikah, consummation of marriage, or transferring the mahr and all that. Allah says, even in that case, give her gifts. Okay. Next one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن طَلَّقْتُمُوهُنَّ مِن قَبْلِ أَن تَمَسُّوهُنَّ. So if you divorce them before you have touched or had a sexual relationship with them, and you have appointed them with the mahr. So this is another scenario where you agreed to marry, but you haven't consummated the marriage, but you agreed a mahr, saying that I will give you such and such mahr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if that is the case, if you are deciding to separate or divorce, you have to give half of that mahr. If you have offered her $5,000, for example, $2,500 you need to give her. But if the woman says, that's okay, I forgive, or it doesn't matter, then it's fine. Or if the man says that, no, I will give the whole $5,000 for her, that's also fine. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no problem with that. But separate honorably. That's what it is. When you come into that kind of situation, don't abuse her, don't badmouth about her. If you don't like carry on, that's fine. But come out of the situation in a very honorable way. This is why we need to love these words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is looking into the every aspect of human relationship and how to deal with each and every kind of situations. Beautiful, deep topics. It's a lot to learn, and it can take days upon days if you delve into each and every verse of Allah's words. But we are just going through the superficial translation, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to understand it in a deeper sense and learn and teach it as well. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Say Ameen. Okay, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna Allah bima ta'amaluna basir. Again, while you are doing that, Allah says, you better know that whatever you do, Allah is basir. What is basir? All seeing. Allah is watching us. Even while we are doing this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept these small, imperfect deeds which we are giving purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Wa akhir dawana. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum everyone.